The camera zooms in tight on Doyen's face, a mask of absolute, paralyzing shock, as rain hammers against the rusted steel of a shipping container. Just 60 minutes ago, a warm penthouse balcony held the scent of expensive cigars, and the amber glow of 30-year-old whiskey were a glowing red encryption key. The black ledger containing every secret of a criminal empire was handed over to Junho, a brother of 20 years. But that sanctuary is shattered as the scene cuts to the freezing shipyard, where Junho, wearing a predatory smirk, hands that same red key to Minki, a man who has spent a decade trying to put Doyen in a grave. This is the moment a king realizes he trusted a ghost, sparking a masterful, invisible war waged from the shadows to reclaim a life sold for a gambling debt. The rain does not just fall in Seoul, it punishes. Standing behind a rusted shipping container at the edge of the shipyard, Doyen feels the cold water seeping into his tailored black suit, but the chill in his blood is far worse. His eyes are locked on the glowing red encryption key currently sitting in Junho's palm. That small piece of hardware is the Black Ledger. It is not just a drive. It is the heartbeat of the city's corruption. Every judge, every police captain, and every politician Doyen has paid off for a decade is listed there in digital ink. If that key is turned, the carefully balanced piece of the underworld will vanish in a pillar of fire. Doyen watches as Junho hands the key to Minki. The transaction is silent, punctuated only by the metallic slap of the red envelope hitting Minki's hand. Minki's smug, light brown stubble twitches into a grin. He looks like a man who has just bought the sun. Doyen's breath catches. He remembers 3 years ago when Minki sent a hit squad to his sister's wedding. He remembers the scars he carries because of that man. And now his closest friend, the man who knew where everybody was buried, is handing Minki the ultimate weapon. The weight of the loss hits Doyen like a physical blow to the chest. If Minki unlocks that ledger, he won't just take over the territory. He will blackmail every official in South Korea. He will turn the city into his personal playground and execute anyone who ever showed loyalty to Doyen. The future Doyen had planned, a legal life, a tech conglomerate, a way out for his men, is evaporating in the salt air. Every name on that ledger is a life, and every life is now a target. Doyen reaches for the suppressed pistol at his hip, his fingers brushing the cold metal. His jaw is tight, his eyes wide with a dawning realization that his life as the Mafia King ended the second that key changed hands. He could shoot now. He could probably take out Minki, maybe even Junho. But the shipyard is crawling with Minki's enforcers, and the ledger would likely be lost or destroyed in the crossfire. More importantly, Doyen realizes he doesn't just want them dead. He wants to know why. He wants to see the look on Junho's face when he realizes that a king is most dangerous when he has nothing left to lose. Doyen slowly backs away into the darkness, his boots splashing silently in the puddles. He leaves behind the Bentley, the roses, and the man he used to be. The weight of the red key is heavy, but the weight of the revenge he is about to craft is heavier. As he disappears into the fog, the only thing sharper than the rain is the cold, calculated focus beginning to burn in his chest. The city might burn if that key is opened, but Doyen will be the one holding the matches. To the rest of the world, the king is dead. Within 3 hours of the shipyard betrayal, rumors flood the streets of Gangnam. People say Doyen was executed and dumped in the Han River. Others say he fled the country like a coward. Doyen lets them talk. Silence is his new armor. He pulls a heavy black hoodie over his head, the cheap fabric itching against skin that is used to silk and fine wool. He stands in front of a cracked mirror in a grimy basement apartment in the outskirts of the city, a place so small and damp it smells like old pennies and forgotten dreams. With a pair of steady hands, he takes a straight razor and shaves off the sharp, clean-cut look that defined his reign. The Mafia King is gone. In his place is a ghost. He takes his high-end black suit jacket, the one that costs more than most people make in a year, and stuffs it into a trash bag. He replaces his encrypted satellite phone with a cheap, plastic burner phone bought from a corner store. The transition is jarring, a fast cut from luxury to the absolute bottom, but it is necessary. To dismantle an empire from the outside, one must first become invisible. Doyen sits on a moth-eaten mattress, the only furniture in the room, and stares at the flickering light bulb above. This basement is only a few blocks away from where he and Junho grew up. Back then, they shared a single bowl of noodles and promised they would never go hungry again. The irony isn't lost on him. He is back where he started, but this time he is alone. The betrayal has stripped away his status, his wealth, and his army, leaving behind only his mind and his mountain of secrets. He activates the burner phone, his fingers moving with practiced precision. He doesn't call his lieutenants. He doesn't call his lawyers. He initiates the Ghost Protocol, a series of digital dead drops and hidden accounts he set up years ago in case of a total collapse. He begins to move tiny amounts of data through the shadows of the internet, watching the underworld's communication channels. He sees Junho moving into his old office, sitting in his chair and pouring his whiskey. A cold smile touches Doyen's lips. Junho thinks he inherited a kingdom, but he actually inherited a prison. Doyen knows every hidden camera, every weak floorboard, and every secret backdoor in that organization. By letting the world believe he is a corpse, Doyen has gained the ultimate advantage of surprise. He is no longer a target. He is a haunting presence. He closes his eyes, the sound of the subway rumbling overhead. The king isn't coming back for his crown. He is coming back to burn the throne with everyone still sitting on it. Doyen spends 48 hours straight staring at the glowing blue screen of a rugged laptop, his eyes bloodshot and his skin pale in the basement's dim light. He is digging through layers of hidden financial data, chasing a ghost made of numbers. He needed to find the why. Loyalty doesn't break for no reason, especially not a 20-year brotherhood. As the lines of code scroll by, he finally hits the motherboard. He finds a 40-page digital ledger that Junho thought was buried under 7 layers of encryption. It is a record of a secret life. While Doyen was planning their transition into legal tech, Junho was sinking into a black hole of high-stakes baccarat. The numbers are staggering. Millions of dollars lost in underground casinos owned by Min-ki. Junho hadn't just been playing. He had been losing with a desperation that bordered on insanity. The closest friend had been embezzling from the syndicate's secondary accounts for years to cover the spread, but the hole was too deep. Doyen leans back, the plastic chair creaking under his weight. The realization is a bitter pill. Min-ki hadn't just recruited Junho, he had owned him. Min-ki had used his predatory casinos to trap Junho in a debt so large that the only way out was to sell the king's head. Every loyal nod, every drink they shared, every promise of a legal future, it was all a performance. Junho was a slave to the cards, and Min-ki held the leash. The documents reveal even more. Min-ki didn't just want the money. He wanted the black ledger to leverage his way into the national government. Junho was the delivery boy. The 40-page debt was the price of a brotherhood. Doyen feels a wave of pity wash over him, followed quickly by a freezing rage. He thinks about the times he offered to help Junho with anything, the times he asked if something was wrong, and how Junho had looked him in the eye and lied every single time. Doyen begins to print the documents, the small printer humming in the corner of the basement. This evidence is more powerful than any bullet. It proves that Junho isn't a mastermind. He's a victim who became a traitor out of cowardice. Doyen realizes that the closest friend didn't sell the secrets because he wanted the throne. He sold them because he was afraid of the man he owed money to. Doyen packs the papers into a folder. He now has the map of Junho's soul, and it is covered in the grime of a gambler's desperation. The war is no longer about territory. It is about exposing the pathetic truth behind the betrayal. Across the city, in the opulent mahogany office that used to belong to Doyen, the air is thick with tension and the smell of expensive tobacco. Junho sits in the oversized leather chair, the red encryption key sitting on the desk in front of him like a taunt. Min-ki stands by the window, his smug grin from the shipyard having faded into a sharp, impatient scowl. They have the black ledger. They have the names, but they can't see a single one of them. Open it, Min-ki growls, his light brown hair messy from a night of frustration. Junho's hands are shaking as he taps on a keyboard. I'm trying. It's a triple-layer biometric lock. It doesn't just need a password. It needs a high-resolution, live-pulse thumbprint. The red key glows, a steady heartbeat of light that seems to mock them. It is a masterpiece of security. Doyen didn't just lock his secrets, he tied them to his own physical existence. The predator's smirk on Junho's face has been replaced by a mask of cold sweat. He realized too late that the price he sold his soul for is useless without the man he betrayed. To unlock the ledger and pay off his 40-page debt, he needs Doyen. He needs the Mafia King dead or alive, but specifically, he needs a thumb that is still warm enough to register a pulse. The victory they celebrated at the shipyard was a hollow one. They are holding a treasure chest without a key. Min-ki turns from the window, his eyes narrowing. You told me you had everything. You told me Doyen was handled. Junho flinches. He knows that if he can't deliver the names on that ledger, Min-ki will collect the debt in blood instead of data. The power dynamic is shifting. Junho isn't the new king. He is a failing employee in a very dangerous business. He realizes that Doyen, even in death, still controls the room. The frustration in the office is a physical weight. They have searched the morgues. They have scoured the river. There is no body. Without Doyen's thumb, the black ledger is just a piece of plastic. Junho looks at the red key and realizes he is trapped. He sold his best friend for a promise of power, only to find himself sitting in a dead man's chair, waiting for a ghost to show up and finish the job. The silence in the room is broken only by the steady, rhythmic blinking of the red light, a heartbeat from a man they thought they had killed. The haunting begins on a Tuesday. Junho is sitting in a high-end restaurant, trying to look like a leader when his phone vibrates. It is an anonymous message with no text, just a single image. It is a high-resolution photo of the red encryption key. But it isn't a photo from the shipyard. It is a photo taken from over Junho's shoulder, showing the key sitting on the mahogany desk in Doyen's old office. The angle is impossible. The room was supposed to be swept for bugs and cameras every hour. Junho's blood turns to ice. He drops his fork, the clatter echoing in the silent room. He looks around, but every face in the restaurant is a stranger. He realizes that Doyen isn't just alive, he is watching. The ghost is in the building. Doyen, sitting in his basement miles away, watches the feed from a microscopic lens he installed in a light fixture months ago. He sees Junho's hand start to tremble. This is the first crack in the traitor's armor. An hour later, another message hits Junho's phone. It's a photo of the 40-page debt ledger, specifically the page showing his largest loss at Min-ki's casino. Under the photo is a single sentence. How much is a brother worth these days? Junho nearly chokes. He hasn't told Min-ki that Doyen might be alive. If Min-ki finds out that Doyen is out there, playing games and holding evidence of Junho's secret debts, Min-ki will kill Junho before the sun goes down. The wedge of paranoia is driven deeper with every hour. Doyen begins haunting the organization. Small things go missing. A favorite pen, a specific file, a bottle of whiskey. Junho starts screaming at his guards, accusing them of being double agents. He trusts no one. He looks at Min-ki with suspicion, wondering if the rival boss is in on the prank. Min-ki, in turn, looks at Junho's erratic behavior and begins to wonder if he backed the wrong horse. Doyen watches it all through the eyes in the underworld. He sees the two traitors starting to snarl at each other. He sees the fear in Junho's eyes every time a shadow moves. The Mafia King is dismantled their alliance without firing a single shot. He is using the one thing they both value, secrecy, against them. By the time Doyen is ready to step back into the light, Junho and Min-ki will be so busy trying to kill each other that they won't even see the real threat coming. The ghost isn't just watching, the ghost is moving the pieces. The red encryption key sits on the mahogany desk, pulsing like a taunting heartbeat. Junho stares at it, his eyes sunken and dark from nights without sleep. The pressure from Min-ki has reached a breaking point. Every hour, the rival boss sends a fresh threat, reminding Junho that a debt of millions cannot be paid with excuses. Junho is desperate, his mind frayed by the constant haunting of Doyen's ghost. Then, a notification pings on a secure, encrypted laptop he keeps hidden in the desk drawer. It is an email from an anonymous source titled simply "The Back Door." Inside the message is a string of complex code and a set of instructions. The sender claims to be a disgruntled former technician of Doyen's, who was fired without severance. The note says the technician built a secret bypass into the Black Ledger's biometric lock just in case Doyen ever tried to screw him over. Junho's heart hammers against his ribs. It is too perfect, too convenient, but he has no other choice. He is a man standing on a sinking ship, and this code is the only life jacket in sight. He copies the string of characters, his fingers trembling as they hover over the enter key. He doesn't realize that the code is not a bypass at all. It is a Trojan horse, a masterfully crafted tracking beacon designed by Doyen himself. The moment Junho executes the command, the encryption key doesn't unlock. Instead, it silently establishes a high-speed connection to a hidden server in Doyen's basement. It begins broadcasting every bit of data on Junho's local network, his location, his private messages, and his security protocols. The back door has actually opened a front door for the king to walk through. Junho watches the screen, waiting for the names of the corrupt officials to appear, but the progress bar stalls at 99%. Doyen sits in his grimy basement, watching the data stream across his monitor in emerald green lines. He sees Junho's panic through the webcam he has hijacked. He sees the way Junho bites his nails and looks over his shoulder at the empty office. The trap is set. The beacon is active. Doyen now has the exact digital signature he needs to override the entire building's security system. He has turned his greatest secret into a tracking device that Junho is hand-feeding every piece of information he needs. Junho slams his fist on the desk as the screen goes black. He thinks the system crashed. He doesn't know that he just invited the ghost into his house. He doesn't know that the back door was actually a leash. Doyen stands up from his moth-eaten mattress and pulls on his black hoodie. He doesn't need to hide in the shadows anymore. The Trojan horse has done its job, and the king is ready to reclaim his territory, not with the crown, but with the cold, hard truth that will burn the city to the ground. The penthouse looks exactly as it did on the night of the betrayal, yet the air feels heavy with the scent of an approaching storm. Doyen stands on the balcony, the wind whipping his hair, as he stares out at the Seoul skyline. He has shed the hoodie and returned to a tailored black suit, though he carries no weapon. He looks thinner, his features sharper, but his eyes are like frozen lakes. He has sent the invitation. He has called for a surrender dinner. He told Junho and Min-ki that he is tired of running and is ready to open the Black Ledger in exchange for his life. The elevator dings, and the two traders step out. Min-ki leads the way, his light brown hair perfectly styled, a smug grin plastered across his face. Junho follows behind, looking like a man who has seen a ghost. He is jumpy, his eyes darting to every corner of the room. They see Doyen standing by the table, which is set with the same expensive whiskey they shared weeks ago. Doyen looks defeated. He keeps his head low, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of his exile has finally broken him. "Sit," Doyen says, his voice a low, raspy velvet. Min-ki laughs, pulling out a chair and kicking his feet up on the table. The king returns to his knees. "I knew you'd crawl back eventually, Doyen. You don't have the stomach for the gutter." Junho sits down slowly, his eyes locked on the red encryption key sitting in the center of the table. He wants to say something, to ask Doyen how he survived, but the words catch in his throat. Doyen pours 3 glasses of whiskey, his hands steady as a surgeon's. He pushes the glasses toward them, a gesture of peace that feels like a funeral rite. "I have the thumb," Doyen says, holding up his right hand. "I'll open the ledger. I'll give you the names. All I want is a plane ticket out of here, and a promise that you'll leave me alone." Min-ki leans forward, his eyes gleaming with greed. This is the moment he has killed for. He thinks he has won. He thinks Doyen is a broken man offering a white flag. He doesn't see the cold steel behind Doyen's gaze. He doesn't notice that Doyen isn't looking at them, but at the digital clock on the wall, counting down the seconds to the final move. Junho reaches for his drink, but his hand stops mid-air. He notices something. Doyen isn't wearing his watch. He isn't wearing his ring. He has stripped away everything that connected him to this life. The silence in the room becomes deafening. Doyen slowly stands up and walks toward the screen at the end of the room. "The ledger is a powerful thing," Doyen whispers, "but it only works if you're the one holding the leash." He places his thumb on the red key, and the room fills with a sharp, digital chime. The final sit-down has begun, but the surrender isn't coming from the king. The screen at the end of the room flickers to life, but it doesn't show the names of judges or politicians. Instead, it shows a video of Min-ki and Jun-ho in this very office 3 nights ago. In the video, Jun-ho is whispering about how he plans to use the Black Ledger to bankrupt Min-ki once the heat dies down. Then the scene cuts to Min-ki on a private phone call, laughing about how he is going to execute Jun-ho the second the biometric lock is opened. The two traitors freeze, their faces turning a sickly shade of gray as they watch their own treachery play out in high definition. "Did you really think I only recorded the good times?" Doyen asks, his voice cutting through the shock like a blade. But he isn't finished. The screen splits into a dozen smaller windows. It shows a live feed of every major mafia boss in South Korea, currently watching this same broadcast. Doyen hasn't just exposed their betrayal to each other. He has broadcasted their private plans to the entire underworld. He shows the footage of Min-ki planning to clean house by killing the other family leaders once he has the ledger's leverage. Min-ki leaps to his feet, reaching for the pistol tucked into his waistband. "Turn it off. Cut the feed," he screams, his smugness replaced by raw, primal terror. But Doyen remains calm. It's a broadcast loop, Min-ki. It's being sent to every server in the city. There is no off switch. Jun-ho is paralyzed, his head in his hands. He realizes that by trying to sell the king's secrets, he has become the target of every criminal in the country. They aren't just traitors to Doyen anymore. They are liabilities to the entire system. The digital execution is total. In the span of 5 minutes, Doyen has dismantled their reputations, their alliances, and their futures. Outside the penthouse, the sound of screeching tires and heavy footsteps echoes from the hallway. The other families have arrived to collect the heads of the men who tried to play them. Doyen watches the door, then looks back at the 2 men who were once his world. He sees the predatory smirks have vanished, replaced by the wide-eyed realization of men who are already dead. Min-ki points his gun at Doyen's chest, his hand shaking violently. "I'll kill you. I'll take you with me." Doyen doesn't flinch. He doesn't even move. "You can't kill a ghost, Min-ki, and you can't rule a city that hates you." The lights in the penthouse flicker and die, plunged into darkness as Doyen's Trojan horse shuts down the power grid. In the chaos and the shouting that follows, the king simply steps back into the shadows. The digital execution is complete. The ledger wasn't a weapon for Doyen to keep his throne. It was a bomb he used to destroy it. The morning fog rolls off the Han River, thick and white, swallowing the skyscrapers of Seoul. Doyen walks down the steps of the penthouse building, his footsteps echoing on the damp pavement. Behind him, the sounds of sirens and shouting fade into the distance. He doesn't look back. He knows what is happening up there. He knows that Jun-ho and Min-ki are being led away, not by the police, but by the very men they tried to betray. Their empire has collapsed into a pile of ash, and the Black Ledger has been deleted forever. Doyen stops at a small park bench overlooking the water. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out the red encryption key. It is cold and lifeless now, a piece of plastic that held too much blood and too many lies. He looks at it for a moment, remembering the nights he spent building that database, thinking it was the only thing that made him powerful. He realizes now that the crown was never a reward, it was a cage. He had spent his whole life protecting a throne that only attracted monsters and traitors. With a flick of his wrist, he tosses the key into the dark, swirling waters of the river. He is no longer the Mafia King. He has no army, no penthouse, and no billion-dollar accounts. But as he breathes in the cool morning air, he feels a lightness in his chest that he hasn't felt since he was a boy. He is a man without a name, a ghost who has finally finished his business. The burden of the secrets is gone. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder anymore, because there is nothing left to steal. He has traded his power for something much more valuable, the truth of who he really is. He begins to walk toward the subway station, blending into the crowd of morning commuters. He wears a simple coat and an anonymous expression. No one looks twice at him. To them, he is just another face in the city, another soul trying to make it through the day. He likes it that way. He thinks about the legal life he once dreamed of, It won't be in a high-rise office or a tech conglomerate. It will be quiet. It will be honest. He might find a small shop, or maybe he'll just keep walking until the city ends. As the sun begins to burn through the fog, Doyen smiles. It is a real smile, one that reaches his eyes. The king is dead, and for the first time in his life, Doyen is finally alive. He boards the train, leaving the shadows of the underworld behind forever. He has no crown, no secrets, and no friends left to betray him. He is free. The war is over, and as the train pulls away from the station, the man who once ruled Seoul disappears into the light of a new day, a king who finally found peace by losing everything.